Come on, you got it all wrong, man.
Today, our special guest joining us on Film Focus with Real Vision, with 12 years' experience in the visual effects and broadcast industry, who's worked on films such as Gladiator to commercials such as Levi's, it's Jeanette Williford. Thank you for joining us, Jeanette.
Thank you.
For those who don't know, what exactly does a visual effects artist do? Because that is your role.
Basically what it is a visual effects artist is someone who creates or modifies film or video sequences for film and TV commercials, music videos or the web using computer software to enhance the imagery or just basically modify things to according to the vision of the creatives and the director.
So it's quite a diverse and dynamic kind of role, and it's the first post-production role that we've actually had as a guest on this show. How did you get involved in visual effects and the television and film industry?
Well, originally I did graphic design as an HND, so I already sort of learnt about typography and visual balancing and use of colour and things like that. But actually it was by chance I started as a runner. I actually went to the Mill one day with a friend of mine to visit someone.
What's the Mill for those people who don't know?
The Mill is one of the leading visual effects companies in the world. They do visual effects for TV commercials, music videos, films, and also long-form TV documentaries like Doctor Who. So basically I went there and I absolutely loved the place. I loved everything that people were doing. So I applied for the runner position that day and I started 3 days later. I've never looked back. It was very good, but it was a lot of hard work.
Following starting work at the Mill as a runner, you actually went on to continue working there and ended up doing some large name productions of commercials and music videos. How did that work?
Well, basically when you're a runner you have to train yourself out of hours and then just basically learn the kit and the software, and obviously the operators are really helpful and they give you tips and show you how to do things, and then you kind of work through the night doing odd bits and pieces for them and gradually build up their confidence, and then moving to the actual role eventually once they're happy with the level of your work. But on big commercials you would start off by doing things like rotoscoping, which is basically tracing moving imagery so that it can be composited on a different background. So you get a lot of things like green screen footage, blue screen footage, and then you also do clean-up work, rig removal, wire removal, people in flight and falling and things like that. And then you move on to actually conforming and compositing images, and obviously using all the different kind of crazy special effects like lens flares and smoke and fire and all kinds of image manipulation software.
So what kind of would you say was the standout projects that you've worked on? Because there are some quite big names in there, aren't there?
I was lucky enough to work on a huge Nike football campaign a couple of years ago that was shot by Guy Ritchie, and it was all kind of in the same style as Snatch, all the kind of sped up pieces of footage and things like that.
I think I remember that one actually.
Yeah, it was all from the footballer's perspective, so he was going through his whole life through his training, through his out of football experiences, through his love life, through the actual football stadium experiences and things like that. So it was really interesting to work on. They did multiple global versions of it, and I did the online campaign, which was in multiple languages, which got a bit complicated because sometimes we had to phone up people to say, what does this mean, what does that mean, if you knew someone that could speak that particular language, because you had no idea.
I had the same experience when I did some films in Paris last year.
Oh, right.
And I was submerged into Parisian life, and I couldn't understand a word. Well, I knew a few words, but I didn't really know what was going on within the room, and having to operate professionally within an environment where you actually can't understand what's in front of you is quite challenging, isn't it?
It is, yes.
But that's how you grow and that's how you learn, I guess, isn't it? And you push yourself. You mentioned some of the commercials work you did, but what about the music video side of things?
I've worked on a few interesting music videos, which I think I was very privileged to at the time, because we were working with Michel Gondry, who was obviously a creative god in that process and is quite revered in the whole music video industry because he's quite strange and has very kind of eccentric ideas which do process very well on video. We worked on a couple of White Stripes videos when I was in New York called The Denial Twist and Hardest Button to Button, and also Stereogram's Walkie Talkie Man. And that was really interesting, working with someone so utterly creative but very eccentric. And that got us to actually be nominated for MTV Awards. So we were lucky enough to go to the awards in Miami, which was brilliant.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it was very nerve-wracking though. I could never handle being famous. It's just too much. I also worked on a large Pepsi campaign, which may have been seen here. I know it was shown on MTV quite a lot. But that was really interesting to work on as well, because we worked with the Black Eyed Peas, and basically they'd been shot on green screen and then composited onto various different backgrounds where they fell through the floor in different situations.
I do remember that, actually, yep.
Yeah, and they were all suspended by wires and cables and stuff, so we had to get rid of all that and then add in loads of extra dust elements and bits of flying debris and stuff. And that was really interesting. It was really fun to do, because I think it was just, you know, when they were kind of starting to get back on their feet and grow globally as a well-known band. And so it's great to be part of that process.
At a very pivotal point as well in time for them.
Yeah, and it was really fun.
That's fantastic. In addition to the commercials work, you've also worked on some high-profile feature films, some of which people out there may just have heard of, isn't that right?
Well, yeah, but only in a small role. When I was running, just to get experience, I'd go around the area of the company at that time that specialised in film work. And I was lucky enough to be around when they were doing Gladiator. So I kind of cut my teeth on doing a little bit of rotoscoping for that. And also they did Black Hawk Down, Knight's Tale. We did kind of a big kind of procession sequence. And also one of the first Harry Potter movie.
That's
did a little bit of rotoscoping on that. It was fun, and it was interesting just to kind of get to work on something that exciting and interesting, because, you know, you could learn from so many talented people, and it was a great place to be at that time.
Films such as Gladiator and Harry Potter now are so big they're almost legendary. Are you proud that you've worked on those kinds of films?
Oh, definitely, and it was a really, really great learning experience as well, because obviously there were a lot of some of the best artists in the industry working on those films at that time, so it was a wonderful opportunity to learn from them.
I can imagine. Do you have any good stories from then?
Probably none that are publishable.
You'll have to tell us after then.
I will do.
What are you currently doing on the Isle of Man? Because you've set up here, haven't you, a post-production house? I
have, yes. I'm basically working remotely for my previous employers and for other post houses. And I'm also helping out doing work for local companies, and also helping doing some film work for Man in Shorts. I've been doing quite a lot of visual effects work for them. They seem to be a very, very industrious and creative group, and they've always got films on the go, and I'm sure they'll always be needing visual effects.
So your top tip in a nutshell for people wanting to get involved in visual effects, what would you advise them to do if they're listening?
Be determined, get your reel out there and your CV out to all the post-production companies, and just don't give up. It's so competitive, but you know, if you keep going and if you keep plugging in there, you will definitely get somewhere, but you've just got to be determined and really positive.
Brilliant advice, absolutely brilliant. Well, thank you very much for joining us on Film Focus with Real Vision, and good luck for all of your future projects.
So that's a peek into the world of visual effects then. Thanks very much again to Jeanette for coming up to Film Focused with Real Vision. It's time for us to bid you goodbye again, Emily. I hate this part of the show.
Sad moment.
So very sad. Passes the tissues. But before you go, we need to hear what your session track replay is for this week.
This week I would like to pick Panicland's tune Punches. They have such a fantastic energy, and we had such a great time recording with them when they came in here, and it just works so well.
I think I'd play a Panicland track every week if I could, but you've picked a very good one. This is Punctures from Panicland on Saturday Night Live. Thanks very much, Emily. See you at the same time next week.
See you next week.
I am a punch.